Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning into this webinar. My name is Jacobus Uberholster. I'm an AEC and Procon technical consultant with Micrographics, and I'll be running you through today's webinar, which is on AutoCAD Advanced Dynamic Blocks. Okay, so without further ado, let's head into this. So just our agenda for today will be an introduction, some examples of dynamic blocks, dynamic block parameters and actions explained, how to assign those parameters and actions, and then we'll delve into a lovely example that will make use of all of those things that we've discussed, and we will be creating a double lookup table. And then we'll just discuss some of the possibilities afterwards, and then we'll end with the conclusion. And at any time, you're welcome to pop a question into the live chat, and yeah, I'll do my best to answer it for you. All right, so firstly, let's start off with what blocks are. So blocks are named groups of objects that act as a single 2D or 3D object as per the Autodesk website. And so in simplicity, it can also be described as a collection of line entities of which none of those individual line entities can be edited. And so they can be edited by exploding them, but then of course it loses its block properties. So a block can be if you think of a polyline, that is a lot of different line entities that act as a single entity that you can move around, but also blocks can contain circles and other shapes inside of them and then be moved as a single entity all over the drawing without having any of those entities necessarily touch each other or run in a line, basically, if that trust that makes sense. So then dynamic blocks, and a dynamic block is a block which has multiple configurations or appearances which can be selected without adding an additional block. So very important, it's a single block of which you can change the configuration or appearance, and it doesn't need to add another block for that. Okay, so a single block of which the configuration and appearance can be changed. So dynamic block can be identified by the symbol. To apologize for the quality, but that's the best I could get, and that symbol should be quite easily identifiable within your Autodesk UI. So the location of these dynamic blocks, so if you think back of our webinar on AutoCAD tool palettes, if you go to the View tab, you'll see that your tool palettes are available there, and then within that tool palette or within those different palettes, you'll see different blocks with that symbol that indicates that it is in fact dynamic. And then you can also, after creating blocks or dynamic blocks, you can add them to your drawing via the insert block command. And to do that, you'll actually need to create or identify a folder as a block library for AutoCAD. But we'll get to that further down the line and just look at what the simplest option is for you to be able to create a block or create a dynamic block and then access it in all of your future drawings. All right, so if we look at the tool palettes, you look under the mechanical or within the mechanical palette, you'll see that there's a shoulder screw with that typical dynamic block symbol. And what you'll note are the different grips. Okay, so the triangular grips. So the small triangular grip denotes a length action. Apologies for that. So a length action. And then you've got your two drop down triangles with the little rectangle up top on the right hand side that denote different configurations or appearances for the same block. Then you've got your little square position handle, and that is typical of any block. So that's not something that you necessarily add, but you can actually add a base point in the block editor, which changes that position handle for you. So yeah, it's a very simple concept, but it's super useful to think that even if you look at those different configurations, if you do have AutoCAD in front of you, those different configurations, the time you save in being able to toggle through all of those configurations, the time you save with that little length grip as well, without having to redraw or modify an existing entity or object to do that. You can simply go through all of those configurations. There's no specific limit on how many actions or how many features you can add. It just comes down to logic, basically. All right, and if you place one of these objects or blocks and they don't have any grips, excluding the position handle, it's not a dynamic block. Okay, so do keep that in mind. But of course, always you'll need to look at that little that that little lightning bolt over there, and that will quickly tell you whether or not it's a dynamic block or not. All right, furthermore, if we go into the architectural palette, you'll see there's an aluminium window. It's got a nice grip at the bottom there, and you can see actually those straight lines indicate pre-populated dimensions, basically. And you can stretch this block to those indicators and not beyond, and not shorter either. So you've set limits in terms of how far this block can stretch. And you can just imagine having to redraw or have a drawing basically with all of these different configurations or lengths available and having to go back and copy and paste those into new drawings. Whereas you can actually just set up a dynamic block with those extents already populated in, those limits, for lack of a better word, already populated in. You've got the same at the top there where you can actually extend its height as well. And so it goes on. There really are a very large number of dynamic blocks pre-populated into AutoCAD that you can make use of without the need to create your own. So be sure that you go through those before you create your own dynamic block. You could actually just be putting a lot of time and effort into something that has already been done for you. Okay, so once you've created your block, you'll open it up in the block editor, and there you'll see a palette open that should normally be open to you. And within that palette, you'll see parameters. And these parameters consist of the point, linear, polar, X, Y, rotation, alignment, flip, visibility, lookup, and base point parameter. And these are your first port of call when you're building up or creating a dynamic block. You'll need to put these in and then assign actions to them. Okay, so they're quite self-explanatory. So, but we'll get to using some of them later down the line. All right. So the majority of those parameters need to be assigned an action in order for it to have any effect or to create a dynamic effect in your block. Okay. So the point, linear, polar, X, Y, flip, rotation, visibility, and lookup parameter all need actions assigned to them for them to have any effect. But two of those listed parameters do not need actions to be assigned, so referring to the previous list, and that's alignment and base point. So these two parameters do not need or do not require that you assign them an action for them to have any effect on your block. Okay, next we're going to look at these actions. So right below the parameters, you have actions, and you've got move, scale, stretch, polar stretch, rotate, flip, array, lookup, and the block properties table action. And all of these actions, however, need to be assigned to a parameter for them to have any effect. Okay, so two of the parameters do not require actions, but actions in themselves need to be assigned to parameters to have any effect. Okay, so actions are, or I'd rather say, need to be assigned to parameters and cannot be used on their own. If you're not sure of which actions to assign to which parameters, make use of the parameter sets. So if we go back, what you'll see here, there's an extra tab there. We have parameter sets, and you can look at those parameter sets and decide on, or look at rather, the combinations, and those combinations can actually help you figure out just how to create those parameter and action combinations. right? Because some actions actually won't have any effect, no matter if you don't assign them to the correct parameter. Okay, and then you can also assign multiple actions to a single parameter. That is sometimes necessary if you look at a linear parameter with a move and stretch action. So if you just add the move action to a linear parameter, all that will happen is you move that block or the entities that make up that block from one point to another, whereas the stretch action is what you add if you think of that window we looked at previously to actually stretch that entity or to create larger versions of that entity. So in the case where you want to do that, the move action on its own is not enough. Okay, so if you've placed a parameter and you click on it or you select it, its properties will be visible on the right of your screen, well, usually on the right. Okay. So if you look at the value set section, this is where you can define lists, increments, and minimum and maximum values. Okay, so that's very cool. So if you think back to that window dynamic block, where do those set values or those set increments come from? Well, they set there in the value set section of the linear parameter property. Okay, so that's where you set them. That's where you get to define the available dimensions and restrict your dynamic block or restrict the parameter action combination to those set values. Okay, so just as a final bit of this, so list and increments are dimensional values that restrict selected actions. Okay, so if you don't define this list, what will happen is that if you, for instance, assign the stretch action, you'll be able to stretch that block for as far as you want. Okay, you won't be limited how far you can stretch it, but we know in industry, if we look at certain products, they have defined sizes and larger or smaller dimensions are not available of the same product. Okay. All right, so now we're getting to quite an exciting bit of the webinar, and this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time. So if we think of a double lookup table, so this is basically a dynamic block with two lookups. So in essence, two categories that you can select from for the same object, the same block. The outcome of this exercise will be a dynamic block that allows for the selection of two categories. So in our case, we're going to look at a single door or single or double door option, and then the select widths of the single door. So 762, 813, 900, and 1200 millimeters. So basically the configuration will be a set of 4 single doors for those select widths, and then we can change the configuration to be double, which will just double up on those widths. Okay, so the outcome will basically, so our block will look like this with those two drop downs there, and what will be populated into this block are these 4 configurations, as well as a double up of each one of these configurations. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to launch AutoCAD. So I'm working in AutoCAD 2024, and what I've done is I've created all of the configurations already. Okay, so you will need to do that, right? So you will need to create every configuration that you want access to in that dynamic block. Okay, so very important. So what I've done as well is I've put these dimensions on here just so that you can see or quite easily see the effect on that dynamic block and see how quickly we can change between these different configurations. Okay, so let's start by opening up a new drawing. What we're going to do, we're going to take this first drawing here. So you can see it's now a collection of lines and arcs, so not a single entity. Right, so I'm going to press Control C, go to drawing 1 and press Control V. I'm going to navigate to my Insert tab and select all of these lines. I'm going to click on Create Block. I'm going to name this block Door. Okay, I've already specified all of the objects. I'm going to specify the base point on screen, and then I want scale uniformly ticked. Okay, we're going to convert to block. You can also add a description here if you'd like. So then what we can do is we can also tick open in block editor, but I'm going to untick that because I also want to show you where the block editor is. Okay, so I'm going to press OK. And then very important, I'm going to select top center as my insertion point. Then it wants me to select those objects. Press OK. And there you can see it's now a single entity. I can't change any of these lines or arcs or values. It's now a single entity. All right, so I'm going to click on block editor, still within the insert tab. And there's only one block in this drawing that can be edited. And I'm going to press OK. All right, so as we can see, there's the origin 0, 0, and just keep note of that for just the remainder of this exercise. So what we're going to start off with doing is we're going to add two arbitrary objects to this block in the block editor. So we're going to go home. Easiest ones to add are circles. I'm going to change that to 25. I'm going to restrict my cursor orthogonally. I'm going to select there and make another copy. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and just move them up. Okay, so this is not it's not important for you to follow this specific part exactly. You can use triangles, you can use other entities, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so we can use these as two origins for two dummy parameters. Okay, so we're going to go linear, select the center there. There we go. Place that one. I'm going to place a second one as well. All right. So now I'm going to click on the first one. See my properties. There you go. And I'm going to change its name to S/D, and that's for single/double. Under miscellaneous, look at show properties. I'm going to say no. I'm going to change the number of grips to 0. Okay. And I click on the second linear parameter. I'm going to change its name to width. And also show properties no, and number of grips 0. All right. Next, I'm going to add a visibility parameter to top center. And then I'm going to create two lookup parameters on the side here. And I'm going to select those and just move them over. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to double click this. Might not work initially, just sometimes they are a bit finicky, but I should be able to double click. There we go. Once I double click, you'll see that that action right there becomes available. I'm going to click on add properties. I'm going to select S/D. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, under my input parameters, I'm going to add 1 enter, 2 enter. And this is just because there are two options to select from. And those two options on the lookup property side will be single, enter, double. And then what you must take note of is this read only must change. Okay, so when I press enter again, it changes to allow reverse lookup. So it's very important. Put your first entry, enter, add all of your entries, and with the last entry, just ensure that you press enter again and that it changes to allow reverse lookup. Okay, so press exit, double click on lookup 2. There's that action. Go to add properties and now add width. Yes. Okay. And then we have 4 width options. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, if I had 4 width if I had 10 width options, I would have added 1 to 10 this side. Just press enter. So our widths are 762, enter 813, enter 900, enter 1200. Just remember that final enter, allow reverse lookup, and press OK. All right, so those have been set up now. So what we're going to do next is we're going to double click on our visibility parameter. And now we're going to name these according to the configurations that we want available to us. So I'm going to rename this one, and it's going to be door underscore S for single underscore 762. Press enter. Add a new one. Ensure that under the visibility options for new states, that you keep hide all existing objects in new state ticked for all of them. Okay, my next visibility state is door underscore S underscore 813. New one, door underscore S underscore 900. Door underscore S underscore 1200. Okay, now for our next configurations, which is the double door configurations, we're going to look at door underscore D for double underscore 762. Hit OK. Door underscore D underscore 813. Remember to keep hide all existing objects in use state ticked. Add door underscore D underscore 900. And then lastly, we can add door underscore D underscore 1200. And there you can see we've got 8 configurations. You're not limited to these, but for this example, we're just going to have 8 configurations. Then I'm going to press OK. Within the block editor tab, I can navigate back to my first visibility state. Okay, so importantly, what we're going to do next is we're going to add the relevant door, or the relevant drawing, to each one of the visibility states. Now this is, excuse me, this is quite tedious, but it is a very important step. All right, so first configuration is fine. I'm going to go to my visibility state drop-down list, go to door S813, going to go back to the original drawing, and I'm going to use the Control-Shift-C command to specify the base point, select those objects, press enter, go back to my block editor, press Control-Shift-V, 0, tab, 0, enter. All right. I'm going to go to my next visibility state, go back, Control-Shift-C, select that top center, select all of the objects, press enter, go back, Control-Shift-V, 0, tab, 0. All right. Next visibility state, go back to the original drawing. Just check which one was that again. All right, 1200. Control-Shift-C, select the top, select all of the entities, press enter, go back, Control-Shift-V, 0, tab, 0, press enter. Now I'm going to do the same for the double door configurations. So Control-Shift-C, select all the objects, and I'm just going to continue on with that. And the last configuration is door D1200. Again, Control Shift C, top center, select all of the relevant entities, press Enter, Control Shift V, 0 tab 0. Okay, so now let's navigate back to our original or our first visibility state. And let's go to parameter sets. What we're going to do next is we're going to look at that lookup set, right click, press copy, right click in there, press paste, and rename the second one to double lookup set. Then I right click that double lookup set, I'm going to go to properties, and under this description, I'm going to change it from creates a lookup parameter with a single lookup to double. Just that the description matches the set. And then what I'm going to do next, I'm going to click in this actions cell, and there's the add actions button. So if I have not clicked in the cell, you won't see it. So just important, click in that cell, and then the action object you add is another lookup. I'm going to press add, and press OK, and then OK again. Okay, so just something important to note. What will happen under normal circumstances is when you add this double lookup set, you won't see two actions, okay? I'm just going to change it back to what it originally was. Okay, so this is what you should see under normal circumstances. So if I add this double lookup set, go, I only see the one. But I need to see both the actions under this lookup set because I need to change both of them. Okay, otherwise this whole dynamic block won't work. So the command to use is b action bar mode and change it to 0. And there you see both those actions are now visible. Okay, so very, very, very important. So let's double click on lookup 5 here. And under add properties, I'm going to add S&D and width. So with S&D selected, I'm going to hold in control, select width, and press OK. And in the input properties column or columns, I'm going to create my different combinations with numbers. Remember those two lookups were made up of, in the input properties were made up of 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here for 1, it's going to be with 1, so that's combination 1, 1. It's going to be 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 1 and 4. Okay, so that's a single door with the 4 width options. This could be 2 with 1, 2 with 2, 2 with 3, and 2 with 4. Next, we're going to look at the lookup properties. And what we're going to put in the lookup properties are all of our visibility state configurations. All right, so it's going to be door underscore S underscore 762, enter, door underscore S underscore 813. So these configurations need to match these ones. Okay. Door underscore S underscore 900, door underscore S underscore 1200. And it's going to be door underscore D underscore 762, door underscore D underscore 813, door underscore D underscore 900, and door underscore D underscore 1200. And remember the last enter allow reverse lookup. Very important. All right, now that's done. So what we're going to do for the next lookup, so for lookup 6, under add properties, we're going to select the visibility state. All right. And in the input properties, once you click in the first cell, you'll see the drop-down becomes available. So click the first one, and then just click on the side here. The second one, and populate these with those combinations. And now in the lookup properties, we're going to do exactly the same. So rather than typing all of them over, what you can do is you can click on this one, press Control C, and then Control V, Control C, Control V. As you can see, what pops up is the previous one. Just when you click on that little cell there, don't worry about that. It does take the relevant cell into consideration. So press Control C, Control V, as you can see there. Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V, Control C, and Control V. I haven't tried dragging all of them. I think that could work. No, it does not. So you could try that out for yourself, but it doesn't seem to work. Okay, unfortunately. Just make sure that the last one is set, or that last enter for the change from read only to allow reverse lookup. And press OK. All right, so what we're going to do quickly is we're going to test this out to see if it works. All right, so I'm going to say close block editor, I'm going to save changes. And there you can see the circles, which is not something we want, but here's all of that information here. Okay, and the reason it's not working is because we haven't finished actually. All right, so it's not going to work as is. We do need to go back to our block editor. And what we're going to do now is we're going to start knitting this up and getting it ready for final use. So click on lookup 3. Under its properties, go to show properties no, and the number of grips 0. All right. Under our visibility state parameter, we do not want to see properties, and we want to change the number of grips to 0. And we also want all of these, or these two specifically, to be visible in all of our visibility states. All right, so if you go to your other visibility states, you'll see nothing but the visibility parameter. But we want these two drop-downs, these two lookups, to be visible in all of them. So rather than adding them individually, what you can do is you can drag and select them. And then in the command prompt, type BV, show, and select all. And now when you navigate through your different visibility states, you'll see that these are available in all of them now. Okay, and lastly, what I want to do is I want to hide these two circles, so I can select them. In my command prompt, I can type bv hide, press enter, and select all. And now they won't be visible in any of my visibility states. And that should be all for now. We can close our block editor, we can save our changes, and now we should be able to work with this dynamic block. And there you go. Look at that. So for the same size, the same width, we can just change the single to double configuration. We can select our different widths and also just change it to single or double. I mean, how cool is that? Can you think of just all the possibilities with this, especially when it comes to architectural features? Okay, and that is our double lookup table dynamic block. I think a very suave dynamic block, if I don't say so myself. Or do say so myself. If I do say so myself. All right, so you now want to be able to access this dynamic block in all of your drawings. So one of the things to do is to save. Okay, so I'm just saving this. Okay, I've saved it. And now what I want to do is, rather than creating a block library through the process of creating different folders, etc., I just want to add this to my tool palettes. Okay, so if I go to tool palettes, I've already created a custom palette here, so you can do that by right-clicking and just saying new palette. And I want to select this block, this dynamic block. So very important that you needed to have saved this drawing for this to be possible. And all I'm going to do is going to go Control C, click in there and press Control V. And there's that door dynamic block with that little symbol. And now what's really cool, just going to save again for safety's sake. So I can close this tool palette. I can open up a brand new drawing and go to tool palettes, and then the custom palette, this dynamic block is available for use. So I can just place it, and there you see that feature available, or that functionality available, which I think is really, really cool. Okay, you can neaten it up more. You can add alignment parameters or actions parameters. Sorry, it's a parameter, alignment parameters, whether you want to align this to the side of a wall or whatever it might be, that is just easier to place. And remember the BV show command to add that specific alignment to all of the different visibility sets. Just know that in the case where the width changes, you would need to add that parameter to either the top or bottom of this block. Okay, otherwise it's just going to move. I don't think it'll work properly when the width changes. Okay, and that's it. I really do think that creating a custom tool palette and adding these dynamic blocks to that custom tool palette is really the best way to go about it, rather than creating additional folders. And it's easily accessible now in all of your AutoCAD 2024 drawings. You can even go to older drawings. So this drawing, of course, predates the creation of the dynamic block. Go to tool palettes, and there it is. All right, I think really just a very, very cool dynamic block, and it really should, or I hope that it opens up your mind just to what is possible by using dynamic blocks. And also, these steps are available in a short little manual that I've drafted, and you can access, or throw me your email address in the comments, and I'll send throw me your email address in the comments with please send manual, and I'll send, or a little workflow booklet or whatever you want to call it, and I'll be happy to send it through to you. Okay, just where I've put all of this, or this entire workflow, I've put into a Word document or PDF, so that you could follow those step by step rather than having to go through this entire webinar again. Okay. So this is what we ended up with. It's really what we wanted, and we got there. I was really relieved that we did. Sometimes something does go wrong. You never know. But yeah, we got to exactly what we wanted in the end. And you can do this with a lot of different things. You're not limited to just a door. You can look at windows and so forth. But let me not jump the gun. So if we look at just the possibilities of what we've done, you can think of architectural features. You can look at windows, doors, furniture. You can think of mechanical and civil features if you think of your flanges, if you think of your PN ratings. So your PN ratings first and foremost, and then of course also just your flange diameter. If you think of that, that will also be something very awesome to set up a double lookup table for. If you think of your bolts, you've got your bolt size, and then you've got your bolt length as two different configurations. You can think of your pipe cross sections as well, which has got your nominal diameters and then pipe thicknesses. And you can think of valves as well. We have a specific valve type, where there's an RSV, where it's a butterfly valve. You have your valve selector, and then you've also got your nominal diameter selector, which I think would be really, really cool. Of course, you've got with valves, you've got your pressure rating as well. So I haven't tried creating a triple lookup table. I do think it's possible just with this workflow, but it's not something I've tried. But do let me know if you give it a shot and it works out. It's definitely something I'd love to test in the future, and maybe just send out an update to say that, hey, it is possible after all. And of course, the list goes on of all the different configurations and possibilities you have with dynamic blocks. I really think it adds to the attractiveness of AutoCAD as a drafting package. And yeah, I think we are quite, in general, as users, we are quite limited in our understanding of what we can do in AutoCAD. But I hope that this has sort of enlightened you a bit as to really what is possible with AutoCAD, and really so much more. Just imagine in terms of 2D drafting how this can speed up your process, and it's even possible within the 3D drafting space. And so with that, I can conclude this webinar just with just how really cool dynamic blocks are and how they can really simplify your life. Yes, initially setting it up can be quite time consuming, but I think it is absolutely worth it. It is a really fun process to go through, and then to end up with a dynamic block that works that works really, really well. And of course, there's a lot more than that. So of course, this is an Autodesk product. We are a gold reseller, and most of our technicians are trained and certified instructors. So after you've received any of our training, you'll get a internationally recognized certificate as well. And then lastly, thank you for watching. I really do hope that you would think about subscribing to our channel. We post a lot of different stuff as well. And if you want to get hold of me, just throw an email there to info@mgfx.co.za with whatever question you have, and it will be directed to the correct technical consultant. Yeah, please hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on just future clips and future webinars as well. And then now lastly, I'll give a few minutes just for Q&A. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But beyond that, thank you so much for just tuning in and watching. And yeah, I hope that you would consider also just falling into future webinars. And yeah, I hope to hear from you. Thank you just again from myself, Jacobus Oberholster. And yeah, hope you have a great day further, wherever you are.